All right, this is the Public Art Advisory Committee, Monday, August 26th at 5 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. People from the public may join us in the large conference room here at 50 Park Place, Brisbane, or they may join us virtually. Okay, Diane. Take us
Yes,
through
ma'am.
roll call.
So do I do the roll call or do you do it?
No, you can just call for roll call.
Okay, so calling for roll call
Chair Glassman,
here.
Vice Chair Greenlee,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cunningham,
I'm here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Park and Recreation Commissioner Sewell,
Here.
Committee Member Salmon. Not here yet. Committee Member Kelstead.
Here.
It was the first day of BDW. I'm sure she'll make it. Okay,
Okay, so we're moving on to the approval of the agenda for the meeting.
first or second,
So moved. Second.
all in favor?
Aye. Okay. And now the approval of the minutes from our last July 29th meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt or approve?
Okay, I'll do it. Did everybody wake up?
I'm trying to read all this document, sorry.
We're all scared.
And a second.
I'll
Second,
second it.
Palmer Madison.
Deeper voice.
You made it.
How are you feeling?
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
So now we're moving on to our discussion items. The first thing on our agenda is the Public Art Fund Balance Report.
Sorry, do we need to roll call vote because we have a Zoom attendee?
Oh.
Let's just do it.
Do it as we can.
for Friday.
So, okay, so for approval of the agenda, Chair Glassman,
Yes?
Greenlee,
Aye. Yes.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Sewell.
Aye.
Kelstead.
Aye.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Glassman,
Aye?
actually, you weren't
Who's there?
here last time.
No, I wasn't. That's true. I need to abstain. You're right.
Oh, I think we did the motion. I'm just going
Okay,
through the
okay,
roll
we're
call.
going through that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Let's see, so Greenlee,
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Sewell.
Aye.
Someone's absent, Kelstead.
Aye.
All right,
Okay. So now we can move on to the fund balance report.
Okay, so you have an attachment in your packet that has the public art fund balance information. We try to provide this to you quarterly at least biannually. So you can see that the current balance is just under $5 million. We have some funds committed for the remainder of the public art master plan, and there was a little bit left that was dog-eared for the mural at Midtown Market. We had the consultants come out recently and take a look at it because there seems to be some kind of deterioration that we want them to examine and then determine how to repair or resolve. So we're not touching that at this point. So I think the overarching message here is that we have a significant amount of money to work with, and that's exciting, especially going through the master planning process. So there you go. Thank you.
Okay. And so now we can move on to the public outreach survey results.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to say that
Yeah.
someone told me that it was the best survey they've ever taken.
Oh.
Yeah, people really, they're like, it's the most well-written survey. This is somebody who has a marketing degree and took survey writing in
Yes.
college, and I was like, I took that class too. And they were like, it is just was so well written, so I thought we should just start off with that compliment.
Kudos to everybody.
Thank
involved.
you.
Well
Well, kudos to everyone because you all were involved in the writing. So good job.
Group effort. So at this point, we'll turn it over to Molly and Olivia from 9.Arts to share out the survey results from the survey and their recent visit to Brisbane.
Yeah, Well, first of all, thank you guys for hosting us. We had so much fun and really appreciated all the time we got there. So thank you again. We had exceptional survey results, more than I think we've ever had.
Wow.
Especially for a city of your size. It was pretty exceptional. So great community.
Great.
Yeah, it's really good. So I'll go ahead and let Olivia run us through all this, but we'll basically be going through just the results as a whole, and what those mean. And then what we heard from those results, and as well as the things we've heard from you all, talking about a proposed mission, vision, and selection criteria for the plan itself. And then we have an outline that we'd love to show you guys that just shows the different sections of the public art master plan, just to run by you and see if you have any additional comments or changes. And then finally, we'll end on next steps.
Great. Okay, so I have the fun job of running through all the data, which was really positive for the most part. So that's exciting. So I will try to pause after each slide a bit, but interrupt me at any point, especially since we are on Zoom, and I'm sure there'll be some conversation in the room. But just to give a recap of our outreach, we did the 2 visioning sessions back in March, I believe it was, that we were out there. So one with you all, and then one with the group of community stakeholders who are several sort of art-minded folks. We also met with Public Works and the Director of Community Development. Then we had our survey, which received just under 200 responses. And of course, we were at the 3 events, Farmers Market, Concert, and Garage Sale. I'll have you know, Molly and I often looked at each other and said, is this work? Like, we had so much fun, and everyone was really great to be around and just like made us feel like a resident. So thank you, and kudos to you all, because that's a demonstration of your community. But as she said, that's a really great survey response. You can see there's a little note at the bottom here, but essentially for a city of your size with around 5,000 people, a sample size of 146 would give us a 95% confidence rate and an 8% margin of error. So, and we got 192 responses. So we can feel really, really good about these results. Cool. A couple of these I'll go through a little more quickly. So here you can see that majority of people who took the survey live or work in Brisbane, which really just shows that we can really take the answers to heart. Here we asked about their relationship with Brisbane's public art collection. You can see that majority of respondents want to see more art, which is fantastic. Some didn't realize that you all have a public art collection, and an equal amount expressed appreciation for the current collection. So to us, this means that in the plan, we want to celebrate and promote the existing collection, but also really demonstrate the strategies for expanding it. Here we asked about folks' understanding of the public art process. You can see most of them said they don't know the process, but they'd like to, which again, testament to how engaged your citizens are. And also it shows us that in the plan, we want to include at a high level what the process looks like, how you all get funding for art, so that people can have a basic understanding and know how it contributes to the city. You all were to gather other ideas for public art. By what means should you do this? You can see the clear answer here was a survey, similar to the one we used to collect this data. Some other sort of write-in answers included, social media, bulletin board, mail notifications, and then meetings outside of standard work hours we saw a couple times. So just a note. Okay, there's a lot on this slide, but in this question, we told folks that new development helps fund public art. If you remember back when we were developing the survey, we kind of went back and forth about how, detailed to get in this question. Do we want to really explain how the new development funds it? But really the idea was to get a sense of how people are thinking about new development and if they're really connecting those puzzle pieces of, art and these new projects coming up. So you can see that there is some distaste toward new development, but respondents recognize that art is a tool for building excitement and attention, as well as connecting those projects to the community. So again, in the plan, we'll want to elaborate on, how does new development fund public art, and how can art be used to that point, connect these new projects to the community and make them feel integrated and not, something so new and out of touch. Any comments here?
It's about expected.
Okay, primary benefits you hope art will bring to Brisbane. Community identity, greater appreciation for the arts, and civic pride were the top 3. And that's fantastic because it was aligned exactly with the top 3 that you all chose and that the community stakeholder group chose.
Which is actually,
ahead.
that's actually really nice to see, because what it also speaks to is that as a committee, we actually have a good sense of what's going on in the community in regards to public art as well.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep.
I knew
Yeah.
tourism would be last.
I know, they're like, don't bring any new people here. So after this question, you may remember we were kind of like, well, what is community identity? And that's what we tried to hone in on with the next question. How would you describe the identity of Brisbane? List some characteristics. So we got tons and tons of awesome write-in options and tried to sort of group them thematically. So that's what you see across the top here. Small town atmosphere, community and connectedness, nature and the environment, artistic and unique, and then civic engagement and inclusivity. So this means, as you all already know, strong local pride in what makes Brisbane special, centered on this small town charm, artistic spirit, and this really connected, but also just active community. And so we want to make sure that these themes are reflected in public art. Really awesome write-ins here. I loved like the city of volunteers, neighborly, there was a lot about the San Bruno Mountain and like really wanting to protect the environment. So again, I think testament to you all that you all pretty much represented this when we met with you. So. Okay, where would you like to see more public art in Brisbane? The number 1 answers here, public art in parks, inside and around municipal buildings, and in trails. So we'll be sure to prioritize these in our location planning. The role that public art should play, supporting the local art community, uniting people, and enhancing placemaking. So that means really creating a distinct sense of place. Secondarily, it should grab attention and educate residents and visitors. Again, those responses align completely with what you all chose and with the community stakeholders selections.
Great.
So we love that. What public art criteria is most important to you? And this is where folks were able to use some reference images. So you can see that unexpected was the clear winner here.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Yay!
Surprise
We
art.
did like unexpected in our too.
Yeah, unexpected, integrated, diverse, and culturally rich. And these were also the top 4 in a little bit different order, but still the top 4 for you all and the community group. So
Veggie is no.
it was so funny seeing some of the paper surveys. There were like write-ins all over the
Yeah.
paper, like
Mhm.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Contemporary's gone.
Quirky is in.
It's interesting, contemporary, traditional, and edgy, we're all like,
That's very interesting.
I feel like that's how we.
Does this show you
Yeah,
our
like-
quirkiness?
Y'all know who you are. I love it.
Yeah.
And then our last question really asked people to just think big picture. What would you like to see? So again, lots of great write-in responses, and we tried to sort of group them. But really, they highlight a desire for diverse artwork, which is awesome, that reflects the local community. So thinking back to those like 5 themes about community identity in Brisbane. Artwork should educate residents and visitors and then encourage this public participation. So there were a lot of write-ins about like, we really want the art to bring people together, but then like prompt them to speak and have conversation and learn something new about our history or about protecting our environment. So we'll make sure to integrate that into the plan.
We see, I think it's important where it says art styles and preferences, it says functional art that serves a purpose. This is totally what we're doing in the Stairway Plan. It's functional art that serves a purpose. So I think that's like, just, again, you know, reiterating that we're on the right track, I think.
Absolutely. Testimonials we love. I love to see art in the city. It makes our day and adds a little color to life. You know, here it wasn't like explicitly reflected in the survey findings, but we did hear so much about iconic and eye-catching artwork, especially during the 3 events that we were at. So many folks coming up to us and saying, you know, we need this iconic entry piece. So wanted to make sure that was captured. Interactive and temporary kind of speaks to what I was saying about, you know, wanting something that really educates folks and gets the conversation going. So with that, this kind of summarizes what I've already shared, but in terms of future public art, we want those community identity themes to be reflected. We want to instill a greater appreciation for the arts and spark civic pride. Here are the themes that I mentioned: small town charm, natural environment, artistic spirit, and a connected, inclusive, and active community. Oh, we want art to enhance placemaking, unite people, grab attention, and support the local arts community. And in terms of, you know, the criteria, we want it to be unexpected, integrated, diverse, and culturally rich. Other recommendations: prioritize those community areas like parks, trails, and municipal buildings, but also take use of, you know, blank canvases like some of these underutilized industrial buildings. And a welcome moment. Also prioritize temporary and educational art that has some interactivity and can educate residents. Really use the plan to highlight how art can help preserve Brisbane's community identity despite development, right? And even especially because of development, and really build attention and excitement. So with that, we want to share sort of a draft mission, vision, and selection criteria for the plan. And this is all, you know, welcome for us to debate over, but the mission for public art in Brisbane is to support community identity, unity, and pride through diverse artwork that grabs attention and distinguishes a unique sense of place. If Brisbane achieves its mission, we envision a public art program that supports the local arts community, represents those values that are significant to Brisbane, so back to the themes I mentioned, is unexpected and diverse, showing a full spectrum of art types, educates residents on the value of art and the city's process for implementing it, is integrated in community gathering spaces, mindful of the environment, and really leverages those opportunities from new development while maintaining, you know, Brisbane's small town charm. How do we feel about this?
I think it's really good. Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we got
Awesome.
to noodle on it for a while, like if we all go home and read this 10 times and think about it for a couple of days.
Yeah,
there'll be some
absolutely.
suggestions, but from the first run through, I'm like, looks good.
Great. We like to hear that. And yes, please noodle on it.
Local
Welcome
artists,
noodling.
Right.
which is great, but it's not what we were talking about. We were
Yeah,
talking
I was
about
thinking
bringing
that too.
So the local part is really interesting, local artists.
Oh,
Outside of this committee, we thought we'd bring in more other artists from outside, so.
Well,
that's
I
really
mean, this is just talking about giving it, you know, supports the local arts community. It doesn't mean that it has to be exclusively, but I think this has also been something that has been that comes up again conversations in the community about providing opportunities for local artists, meaning Brisbane artists, because it's like local arts around here, to me, also includes all of San Francisco, or basically all of the Bay Area. But so it's, I think I'm making an assumption because we don't have a definition for what local arts means.
Right.
Mhm.
I would love
That
yeah.
People who responded to the survey are thinking local arts in terms of Brisbane artists, as opposed to local
Area.
to the Bay Area.
Mm.
But
Oh, go ahead.
but I'm thinking, I mean, to me, there are ways to integrate Brisbane artists within the artwork that we're commissioning. But still have, what our vision was too, of bringing in, excuse me, nationally recognized artists as well.
I wouldn't want to be, sorry, Lisa, I wouldn't want to be excluding or acting exclusive.
Mhm.
I mean, we have had a tendency in this town to want to exclude people from the outside, those outsiders. And I want to make sure we don't do that.
Is there any insight into that from the group as far as, hiring outside of the town in general?
Are you asking us? I can't quite
Yeah.
hear you.
Oh, sorry.
gonna
Is there
talk to
any
the
insight on that, on whether we should be thinking locally only, or can we think San Francisco Bay Area?
Yeah, I would definitely go with a larger expanse for artists with the word local and think Bay Area. I think what we understood from the community was really like they want to have more opportunities for local, meaning Brisbane, artists to participate in public art opportunities. But I don't think that that is a good long-term plan for public art, and it's not
Mhm.
going to get anybody what they're actually asking for. So I think the way that this balances nicely is to think about supporting, having certain projects that do allow the smaller local art community to participate, such as, wrapping the transformer boxes, right? That's an easy one where a lot of artists can participate. You can have it hyper local, and it's something that, that's just an example, right? Of something that's a low stakes and low cost, but you still garner the attention. The fire hydrants are a great example of how you're already doing this. So I think there's some projects that we can bake in as examples that say, here's how we want to make sure that the local arts community isn't left behind just because we have all this money to spend, that we want to also include national and potentially international artists.
I think that should be spelled out.
Yeah, and I think that probably what you're hearing from people who have commented on past proposals that we tried to do ourselves was that they didn't understand the process, and they're artists and they weren't given given a fair chance. And
Exactly.
that's pretty much on, I would say, on them and on us not communicating the process to the public very clearly, as in, here's the process. We're putting it out there in a very specific way, and you guys are welcome to put in and apply. I think that they felt like they weren't able to. In most situations, when a business chooses their own public art, there's no process like that. But we're creating this process, and I think in the future, that argument will be not valid, I think, because this is the whole point of us making this public art program, is because it will have a process. Everyone will, it'll have clear, application boundaries, and everyone will be able to participate in that. That argument will just not fly.
Well, that's why I think it's so important to delineate in the plan, the two facets of our program, which is one, developer funded, and two, and what that looks like, and two, when there's in lieu of funds. And how that process works, and the public needs to understand that. I think also as a committee, we've said in the past, like, you know, a certain percentage or whatever of projects we might do. We might reserve and say this is a Bay Area, you know. I think when we did this Faithful Skate Park mural, I believe it was, we asked for Bay Area artists.
Mhm.
And so we've had a history of having certain projects where it's like, okay, this is the lower budget. It's gonna really probably only make sense, you know, when you have something that's up to $25,000. It's gonna make sense for somebody who's local to apply, or a smaller thing, you know, little surprise art here and there. That might be one of those projects where we say we're not going to publicize this on a national scale, we're gonna focus on local postings, and so. I think that we've shown that commitment to having a variety.
Yeah, and I think a lot of I must say, I think a lot of the criticism of the last part that was not, was unfounded, so.
It's from a lack of understanding.
It's from a lack of understanding, and I think that this project, you guys working on this will make that not valid anymore, so
Mhm.
yay.
Hey,
Hence the fourth bullet about educating residents on. the
Yes,
process.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
We're gonna spell it out so there are no more questions or confusion.
Yeah.
Which,
Mhm.
to your point, will just sort of squash that whole reasoning of why it feels like they're not getting a project.
And the word process, I think, is so misunderstood at every level of government in Brisbane.
Yeah.
In Brisbane,
Yeah.
forget the rest of the country. In Brisbane, it's like, you know, if you apply to build a house, there is a process for everything. And if we can really focus on saying, you know, this is the process and why.
Mhm.
Because you can't just say, here's a process, take it. It's like, here's why we do this process. So we
Mhm. Define the process.
avoid murals at the skate park again.
Yes.
Cool.
Well, hopefully these criteria will also support, you know, the transparency around the process.
Mhm.
So these are the criteria that were selected by you all, the community stakeholders, and then via the survey as like what people want to see in forthcoming art in Brisbane. And so what we'll do is create sort of a scoring system so that you can actually vet proposals against these and say, like, do they really align with our criteria that we've all collectively agreed upon?
That's
awesome. Good. That's what we want to hear. So I couldn't put them all on one page, but it is 6 criteria. And, you know, as we continue having conversations, we can even do sort of like weighting. Do you want to give more value to one over the other for a certain project, for example? But of course, we have
Yeah.
unexpected here at the top. So each of these are clearly defined. And then it gives you all a couple of questions to ask yourselves so that when you are vetting these proposals and having discussions, like you can ask these questions and kind of see how the proposals are ranking. So I won't go through these in detail, but we've got unexpected, integrated, meaning it's integrated into the location, but also into the city, right? So that brings in some of that thematic community identity that we talked about. Is it diverse? Culturally rich, you know, kind of a fluff word. So we changed this to, is it Brisbane certified? Does it fit into those themes of small town charm, environment, etc.? Educational, you know, is it sparking conversation and interactive, helping people to understand something new about the city? And then is it vibrant? A lot of people, you know, a lot of times people think that vibrant means colorful, but it's really about grabbing attention, being eye-catching, and enriching the experience of people who are passing by the artwork or interacting with it.
I have a quick question. Are you able to provide us, I mean, I know we have a copy of the survey, but I think it would be good as we're like 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. If we see the examples of what is considered edgy, what is considered traditional, and that our community specifically responded to certain photos. So it
For
help
sure.
us see like different, when we get different proposals from artists, we can say, oh, this style is kind of aligned with culturally diverse or.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever.
And our demographics have changed dramatically over the last, say, 10 to 15 years. I had a conversation with somebody who's running for school board, and it was a very interesting conversation. She said, when I first arrived in Brisbane, I walked into Brisbane Elementary School with my daughter, and I looked around the room and there was another Asian woman on the other side of the room, and she says, oh, I guess we should be friends. And she said, now you walk into Brisbane Elementary School, first day of school, and you look around the room and they're like, oh, look, there's a blonde over there. So we have become much more culturally diverse. I just thought it was a good example of, you know, here's the kids in our school system and how much has changed in the last 10 to 15 years. And what potentially is gonna happen in the next 10 to 15 years, right?
Yeah. I'm probably making a blonde kid.
That's okay, maybe not.
I'd be too blonde.
Yeah.
I got great kids.
Okay, great. Well, of course, we'll make sure you have a copy of this so you can kind of mull all of those over. And then to your point, Madison, we can definitely share those images. And in the plan too, we will be talking about, actually brings me here. We will be talking about art typologies. Where are those? Oh, here. Typologies. So with each location that we propose to you all of including public art, there'll be like a certain one of those criteria that aligns to say, hey, at this trail system, you might want to include, you know, Brisbane certified art or whatever it is. So that'll help you really be able to narrow in on what kinds of typologies you're including at which locations. But I kind of jumped ahead. This is really our outline for the master plan. So this is what you will see included, and, you know, we can certainly add or remove things, but opening with, you know, an executive summary, what is this plan accomplishing? What has art been like in Brisbane and what are we looking toward in the future? You know, we want to demonstrate that this is a community informed plan. People had numerous opportunities to participate. And from all of that community feedback, we created this new mission and vision. Then we'll kind of move into processes and procedures. So give an overview of how funding works, right? New developments or not. And then provide the selection process. So if there's like a community competition, right? How will that work? How can people get involved? How can they apply? Or how could they vote on public art? We will then have the please,
Can I
yeah.
ask a question here? I think one thing, and I don't know if this should be in the public art master plan, but I think it's something that we've discussed extensively at this, in this group, is like how to determine an appropriate budget. And even in this, I think that we asked for you to weigh in on what you felt like an appropriate budget would be for this type of project, and that's something that we really struggle to work through, because we've had situations where we've gone out with an RFP and we've just gotten like zero interest or very lackluster, and so we have to say, is it like where we've posted it or what the project is or the budget, or, you know, and so I don't know if that's something that we could just use maybe some one-on-one guidance on, or if that's something that we should kind of outline in the public art master plan so that the public knows how we determine a budget for projects. So some of it's like, I don't know if we want to put that in stuff, like, I don't know that we want to put that in
Fair.
writing. How flexible do we want to be? But I do think it's like a conversation that is like a hump that we're trying to get
Huge
over
hump.
as people. There are plenty of us that are in the art world, but plenty of us that aren't. And so, you know, I don't know the going rate of a 10-foot sculpture.
Mhm.
And it changes from artist to artist, right? So.
Area to area.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, you know, how do we determine budget?
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
that the question?
Yeah, that's a question.
I would not recommend putting it into the plan in writing because it's gonna change.
Yeah.
But I do think we could offer to you guys some solid types of art with budget ranges, advised budget ranges, and that's something we've been, you know, I think budget ranges is always a good way to approach this.
Yeah,
anyway. Especially depending on what the call is for. And understanding too, like market value any given time, right? Like we know that sculptures right now, if they're exterior, they're gonna be more expensive than they were a year ago, just based on fabrication and material costs.
Materials, yeah.
Well, maybe it's something if you're open to, and I think we discussed this like right as you were coming on board, longer term consultancy. And, maybe we have like check-in, once a year and maybe can pay you if that's something that you are open to, but have just like a refresher
Keeping us up to date.
and, yeah, and.
Absolutely. We can definitely do that. We help out with quite a few municipalities and their ongoing needs. For whatever those things are, like we're on, different retainers, we can figure out a timeline that works for you, or if it's just an on-call kind of thing for when you're doing a new call and we need to come in and just vet it for you or give you advice. There's a lot of different ways we could make that happen, but I think even just to start off with the plan of just passing over some good ranges for you guys will at least get you something that'll help start conversations on that budget front.
Madison, do you think that that should be in the master plan? Like we should try to get consultants for estimates when possible?
We did have a whole conversation about like using a curator and when to do that. And that I think definitely is maybe
They do that.
something
NINDOT does that.
that we could outline we could just reference or mention. Cause I think it's important, like we tried to test that with the back of the bathroom, the space behind the bathrooms at the park. We didn't really get we didn't get like a curator, but this committee has discussed that possibility, so it might be smart to touch on that. When to use a curator,
It just eliminates a lot of
Or
questions.
outside firm.
or outside
for-
firm.
Yeah. Where'd you come up with that number? You have an answer.
Okay. I also,
Yeah.
yeah. I also have
Great.
another question.
Please.
Is
Go ahead.
that, are we looking at for every piece of artwork that we're going out for a request for proposal? Or are we looking at that we are going to be doing a mixture of RFPs and directly commissioning pieces from artists?
As a city, I don't think we
I don't
can
think we
directly
can.
commission.
We can't directly commission at all.
Not the way
Okay.
that the ordinance and the guidelines are written.
Okay.
It has to be RFP, but we have invited artists who we really liked their work and said, we'd love for you to apply. So that's kind of,
Okay.
so you want it to be open and fair to anyone. But
Yeah.
there's certainly nothing that precludes us from reaching out, encouraging certain artists to submit.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't clear on that. And I know that it was just something that occurred to me in looking at when we were talking about criteria. And so it's just a question for me is whether everything had to be RFP based.
Yeah, I think that RFP, but like you mentioned, an invitational as well, right? You
Right.
can open it up, but be very specific about sharing that RFP with certain folks that you really want to encourage. It's always a good
Right.
way to do that.
So you all can see the slide. I won't read through it word for word, but is there anything else on here that you all have questions about or would like to be included? I'm trying to think if there's anything, Noreen or Angel, that we covered with you. Like, for example, this community engagement one feeder, that could be something that lives on your website. There's a high level overview of the process, right? So to your point, really educating folks and, eliminating any rationale around like, well, oh, I didn't know, or, I wasn't invited to
No, that's
participate.
gonna happen anyway.
Yeah.
Send them the one cheater.
I do feel like touching on curation is important, or consultants
Okay.
is important to maybe put in there somewhere. But I think that there's like the intention of the committee to use curators when it's deemed, I think for a high budget project.
Oh, yeah.
Or a large scope, like, for example, I'm sure people mentioned the murals in Crawford Park. And so that's where it would make sense to hire a curator or a consultant who's going to help develop an integrated plan and knows the art community and can reach out to certain artists and say, hey, I think that this would be in your, your work would do really well here. And I think outlining when to use curators and the intention of using curators into this plan is important.
I think also the number 4 art location has been a big one for us. And yeah, I would like to have some guidance on how we come up with a consensus on what location to tackle first, or what location is a priority. Because as a park and rec person, the parks and the outdoor areas are natural spaces for public art. But there's also, other city-owned property and all kinds of different areas. So how do you come up with those areas?
Yeah, maybe in the plan has like existing public art, so you talk about what's in the collection. And then every so often you're updating this plan with that, and then like areas of opportunity, where can public art go? I think a lot of people don't realize that it's gotta be a city-owned property. Yeah.
Ah, that is a good point.
And so where are these areas of opportunity that the community, that the commission committee may be focused on?
Right.
And so that might include maps,
Yes.
and then every so often you have a situation like what we're in now, where the funding opportunity comes up, it's something that we've talked about, and now you're like, okay, now this is a priority right now, right, to look at, and so you're flexible a little bit, but I think that's also important for the public.
Yeah, and that's all, again, educating the public into how, what our parameters are,
Cause people might see like, oh, you have 2.5 million, but it's like, if you wanted to do the Crocker Trail.
It's gone
There you
in
go.
about half a minute.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely, for art location planning, we're gonna use maps and we'll be prioritizing based off of what we heard from the community, but also writing in there, why certain locations are being considered higher, which is, these are all municipal city-owned properties, and giving some of that just educational component to it. But then also showing, some of these locations are gonna shift depending on what the city is planning for infrastructure that may change depending on the needs. So those would then also take a precedent over something that is not a high priority already.
And we also talked about identifying 3, 5, and 10-year priorities. We didn't feel like we needed to really expand beyond 10 years, because who knows in 10 years what things are gonna look like and how relevant this will be. So we felt like that was tangible enough to work with. And
You could also mention city facilities aside from just
Mhm.
city,
Yep.
like
Mhm.
open space.
Mhm.
We also have a lot of buildings.
Yep.
Mhm.
We might wanna do something in the back of Mission Blue and
Mhm.
in the lobby.
Yeah.
Diane, were you gonna say something?
Actually, I mean, I think it's in there, but what I was looking for is where, because artwork that is from a development itself, and where exactly that fits in on the outline, because this is all geared towards things that we're going to be directing. And I was just wondering kind of where, that other piece of where the artwork for the Brisbane collection comes in is from the businesses, and where that is within this master plan. And I know we don't have a lot of control over what that is, but we do have some approval process in it, or some approval of it. And kind of, that's what I was kind of looking for, like where that side of the master plan is.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Molly.
Oh, I was just gonna say that'll live under the second section of processes and procedure.
Okay.
And so where you see the, overview of art funding and selection process, we'll be outlining within there that
Okay.
option as well, since it is something that happens. I think especially with some of the newer developers, you know, they've got some big buckets and probably are gonna want to be interested in being pretty close to that process, potentially selecting their own. So we'll have, when it says new art selection process, we'll have a selection process in there that outlines developer initiated artwork versus city initiated artwork, or, you know, the two different buckets of how that gets done. And then we'll have that process in there to show you guys have some oversight on that, but not necessarily like a full yay or nay ability.
Right.
No, we just
Like I'm just wondering if part of this document is can also be for kind of, you know, giving to the developers who are opting for that, you know, to do the artwork themselves and saying, you know, this is going to become part of our collection, and here is kind of what we're working with to build. So it becomes a document that we can hand over for that as well.
100%. We want to make
Yeah.
sure that this document can get into their hands before anything even gets built, hopefully. So
Right.
they can see the selection criteria, the process, like who you guys are, like what this all looks like. What is your mission and vision for the art? Because that's going to help them feel like empowered to put the right call together for art or make the right selections, because they're going to be like, oh, we can help our relationship with the city if we're following what they're doing. And then you guys also know that you've given them this information. So if something comes back and you're like, well, that's just ridiculous, this doesn't look like anything that follows the criteria or
Yep.
mission or vision, then you've got a leg to stand on as well.
And
It
also,
looks like that would be captured in 5 and 6.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sections 5 and 6.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and what we've done with these
Okay,
checklists is we make a really clear, like, let me give this to the private developer who wants to do a new public art project to show them what would be ideal in terms of working with us. So did they follow the criteria? You know, did they come to us at the right times for approvals, right? So it's a very clear checklist that helps, you know, support that relationship to make sure that, yes, it's their own art, but it's still integrated with the whole city collection.
Right.
and it would be very helpful also for the public, because there was some people who absolutely hated the artwork that the owner chose to put on his own property out at phase 3. And they
Yeah.
thought we were the ones who chose the artwork, but we were working within the criteria of what was expected of them. And so they knew that, but the public didn't know that.
Right.
That's good art right there.
I know.
I agree.
Causing conversation.
I like it.
I see it every day on my walk and I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, here we're kind of getting to the end, but this is just to show you a draft timeline of when you can kind of expect things. So Molly and I are working on everything you see here and everything we've discussed today. Deliver a draft to you all in early November. You all will be able to have some time with it and really mull it over so that we can make some revisions and get you a new draft in December with the hope that you can adopt it before 2025. And I know there's some flexibility around this, but we'll just kind of go with this timeline and continue having meetings with Noreen and Angel and then attending these meetings when necessary.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
You guys, great to see you all.
Good to see you too.
Are there 9 dots?
There are actually 30 dots. We could.
What?
Olivia and I-
30 of us dots. That's what we
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
thank you guys so much and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you,
Okay,
Molly and
thank you.
Olivia.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey.
I guess we could have them stay on for the stairway. That's okay.
So do we have any follow-up discussion that anybody wants to have on that? On the 9 dot? Or are we good to move on?
No, I'm really pleased with the work that they've done. I think we picked the absolute right consultant. And I think this
Yeah.
is the beginning of a really long-standing, great partnership.
I'm feeling pretty damn good too, but I'm the rest of you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's move on to the draft of the RFP for the Alvarado and San Benito Stairway Project.
Right, so you all have the draft RFP in your packet. I did my best. I also ran it past Molly and Olivia, so they provided comments and some additional guidance. We tried to incorporate some of the general specs of the construction of the stairway. We will include this kind of plan sheet for the artists when we put out the packet to bid, so that they understand kind of the construction side of the project.
Do you have a picture, like an actual just
Yes,
picture?
yeah, I'll have a handful of pictures that will go in as the final.
They're gonna be like,
enclosure.
ooh.
Yeah, so the last
Like,
page,
got
page
it.
7 has all the enclosures listed. It will include the public art ordinance, the implementation guidelines, the sample agreement, the stairway plan sheets, which I just mentioned, the map location information, and a handful of site photos so that they can get a sense of the space. I think, I'm not gonna go through it unless you have specific questions, but we tried to detail within the project scope what we were generally looking for. Try to establish some just basic criteria to make sure that we're soliciting art that we're actually interested in. I am going to include a notation regarding compliance with city building codes and dark sky compliance. I think for me, we've talked about this last time we met as a committee, that the biggest challenge is the timeline for the
Yeah.
project,
Yeah.
right? So I tried to kind of back end it and detail for the public what that timeline looks like. I think for the committee, if you could look at like those 2 disclaimers below the project timeline, I was struggling a little bit with how to detail for an artist that might be applying for the project, what type of art would need to be kind of planned out and detailed for the construction team by November 1st, which is
Just around the corner.
just around the corner, versus any other art that could be implemented beyond the construction timeline itself. So I left that in there that way. I mean, we can reword that. I'm open
I
to
think that's good.
suggestions.
We will see. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it may be too tight of a timeline. It may be that somebody's like, I'm trying to get in one more project before the end of the year.
Right, right.
So.
Yeah. But I think the intent to leave it kind of broad so that we get a variety of artists that might be interested in a variety of different types of art. Hopefully that we will have a handful of applicants that we can kind of choose from. But we will see. So.
I have a question. Do you send these, do you have Deborah Monk over at Recology on your list if you send our RFPs to? Sorry?
No, I just said it, interesting. Yeah, I
Not
hadn't
big,
thought of
not, who is it?
This is Deborah Monk is in charge of the artist in residency program over at Recology. And because I was I was a student artist in residence over there, I still she sends out emails to the artists, to the mailing list for opportunities, for everything from studios that are available to RFPs.
Yeah.
So that's,
That
Okay.
whole project could be
Yeah.
art found
Yeah.
at the Recology.
and there
Or
are,
it just could be
there are
local
some
artists.
artists, and
Yeah.
it would be local artists because you have to be local Bay Area.
Yeah.
So
Great
I would
idea, yeah.
definitely recommend contacting Deborah for
Alright.
this.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah, any of those leads are great.
Should we be able to
Tied it.
highlight the short timeline?
Mhm.
If we know of artists like within Brisbane that we could point to this,
Yeah.
where would they?
We'll
they find-
post it on the city website.
Okay,
And then I have kind of just a general list of where city municipalities post our RFPs and projects throughout Northern California and the state actually. So I'll just, once we get the RFP approval from city council, hopefully next week, then we can start pushing it out.
okay.
Every avenue. We'll include information about it in the blast.
Yeah.
and
Oh, good.
All of our
good.
social
Yeah.
media, so,
Great,
yeah.
great. So it won't be hard to find.
No,
So-
no.
Okay, great.
So the railing at Sharon and Leanne's place wasn't done by an artist, it was done by an iron worker who
Oh.
creates artistic ironwork.
That's an
Do we
artist.
want, they don't consider themselves, it's.
That's their problem. They're obviously insecure.
I think the intent is to cast a wide net, so
Yeah.
if you have artists
Yeah, you guys
specifically
can
that.
send it out
Send it to me, yeah.
We can put it in the luminary.
And you can
Mhm.
forward
Yeah,
on all the
timeline, though.
information too.
Oh,
Cause you have to get approved by council.
Next week. by
Well, the
council.
9th is my deadline.
And then when do you publish though?
It goes out, it gets delivered on the 14th of September.
September. Okay. The deadline is October 4th for proposals, so that gives time.
Give time.
Yeah, yeah.
Cause they can
Let's do
submit
it
for
then.
a later project too, if they don't
Yeah,
wanna
if
do
they
the
don't, I'm
tight.
not gonna make a handrail.
Hey, I wanna
There's this
say
lady in
thanks
town.
to her.
Yeah, I'm.
Cause this was like,
Quick.
Yeah.
oh,
let me
this
know.
was a lot of work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any adjustments.
How are you feeling about the deadline? Let's be honest.
Well, I have my own timeline, which is more detailed than this
Yeah.
timeline, cause based on these dates, then I have to do things in between,
Right.
so. We're gonna make it work, because
Right.
I think this is an opportunity we don't wanna miss.
No.
so. Yeah.
Hopefully council will be on board to just go ahead and move this forward without any revisions. I think that
Yeah.
could be fine.
And
but-
then the guidance provided by NINDOT for the range on this was, I think.
30 to 80.
30 to 80, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I think Camille's
Yeah.
comment about, having the horizontal railings, so the little people, I've never even thought about it when we were talking about it before. So
Your
that,
grandma.
you know, the 5-year-old, yeah, and new moms, but that like the little kids walking up and down that staircase.
Mhm.
I think that's an important.
I love the recology comment too.
I
I
do
think this
too.
fits
Yeah.
nicely. That's
Yeah.
famous. No, Ty was in that.
Was it?
Tripoli did it, yeah.
Oh,
He still does that type of art.
oh, I know, I see
Today.
all of his stuff.
25 years
That's the
later.
guy who did my my railing in my house.
He did it great and he's still a junk, you know.
He's a junkyard junkie.
Mhm. All right, so.
Very cool.
So are we good to send this?
Are we
to
good?
council
Let's
then?
go.
Changes.
Send it,
No,
send it.
that's
I don't think that-
Good as is. But with photos.
Yeah.
All the photos,
Yeah,
yes.
just ask about building requirements.
Yep, I
city
already
building
have it,
codes
yep.
and all that.
Yep.
And a lot of
Yep.
contrast.
Dark
with photos.
sky.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I mean, I think my biggest concern is if we're gonna integrate into the construction plans, there has to be a public process before that happens, right? And so I think having public engagement sandwiched between those 2 weeks, I think is gonna be a challenge for us.
Yeah.
But let's see what we get in the responses and we'll go from there.
Selection committee will be.
That would be a problem to have.
All right,
Awesome, so,
Okay.
and then what day is October 7th? Is that the date that we have to put on our
that's a
calendar?
Monday.
Okay, so,
Yep,
so there's a guaranteed already set selection committee review and recommendation on October 7th at 5 p.m. So definitely I will make sure to,
What's
it's on your
going on that
calendar, because he has it in this
October
timeline, that's why I'm like,
Yeah.
October 7th.
sorry, 7th, yep.
Because we're gonna be in a real tight.
So you're saying we need to adjust our meeting in October?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
make
I
it
will
happen.
send out that update.
Okay.
And then. September, I mean-
16th is our next meeting.
16th,
16th, 23rd.
hold on,
It's supposed to be a third.
Yeah.
So so on the,
16th,
it says September 23rd for our next meeting.
Yeah, but
What is?
Supposed to be the 16th.
the 16th, I
Okay.
think. Yeah,
I'm leaving town evening of the 5th through the 12th, but that's.
so that works.
This is the 16th.
The 5th is good.
I would like to try to like keep to a regular
know.
schedule as
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
as possible.
Been a little
It's
nutty.
really
Yeah, cause then I
Hard.
get really, yes.
I mean,
Confused.
But I understand needing to move October because of that tight
Mhm.
timeline,
Yeah.
so. Are you saying you want it on this, like what date are you?
The 16th for September?
We've already got it on.
Yeah.
No, I mean October.
October
October
7th. 4 p.m.
Is that enough time for you? Cause we aren't gonna be able to look at a packet. I mean, the deadline's 12, what day?
Yeah, no, cause I would have
Deadline
to
is
have it
4.
out on the, I would have to have it
What's
ready good
happening
to go out to you on the
Is that
fourth.
the
I
next?
don't think
next
that's
meeting.
doable.
Okay.
Can we do like, does it have to be a Monday? Can we do like?
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully people won't wait till the last minute. She'll have most
I
of
mean,
it prepared
I'll
in
have
the
the staff
packet.
report ready, and then it's just a matter of attaching all of the proposals.
Mm.
And the
I-
deadline's noon
I
on that
can't-
day.
I can't do the 7th.
Okay.
October.
Can we do
To
the
the
8th?
Foundation, I can do the 8th. It's the San
Well,
Mateo County Library Foundation meeting, it's really important. Got money.
do we have October 8th? That's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. That's usually pretty good.
I'm available.
Preliminary do.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
don't- I
a
wouldn't
terrible
wanna
day
go
for me,
Too
but,
much later, yeah.
but I'll figure it out.
It's gonna be terrible for you for the next 3 months.
Yeah. So that's my luminaries do,
Oh.
but
I don't-
the luminaries really,
I mean, I don't
it's the
have,
7th, 8th and 9th are all like, those
Yeah.
are all luminary days,
And
and it's fine.
I wouldn't wanna do later that week because I have to do the staff report for councils due that week.
So
Yeah.
what
Following
day-
week.
What time is your meeting at the library?
5:30.
Okay,
all right, so the
And
Tues-
I'm missing this next one to go away again, so I can't miss 2 in a row.
so does everyone else, is everyone else good on the 8th?
October
think
8th.
so.
Fine.
5 o'clock?
You good, Diane?
Can we,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
15,
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
5:30?
Sorry.
anyone else have problems with 5?
It's just really hard to run from
I
work.
can do
Yeah.
that.
5:30.
I
Yeah.
mean, even 5:15 would make
I
it.
mean, like, I won't say yes, but I really don't know, cause like,
Even
that's getting
5:15.
into like a witching hour.
Let's say 5:15.
Like,
Yeah,
I just need time to get
yeah.
here from the office.
All right, so are we shifting all of them starting at 5:15?
5:15.
Yeah,
It's
why
gonna be a
not?
problem, but
So does that include, that includes the September meeting, right?
Yeah.
As well,
Okay,
that'll go to 5:15,
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay.
Don't want Tom stressed out.
No, I
No.
think that
I like
doesn't,
it.
15 minutes
Yeah.
is
Madison.
a small,
Yeah.
small
Under the-
concession.
is
Thank you,
the
everybody.
September 9th, did you say?
that's what it's second of the month. Okay. Oh, wait, so that October 7th, so I'll actually the deadline's that month's 14th,
Oh, yeah.
this is the second. It's the
There
second
you go.
Monday of oh, yeah, so I'll be fine.
Okay.
okay, so they're doing Tuesday, October 8th and September 16th. Okay,
very cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
Maybe your notes.
Oh,
I think we have people on.
They're chicken scratchers, the
Are there
highlights,
people out
right?
there?
So just update, you'll send an updated invite for 5:15.
I will do all of those, yeah, absolutely. I did receive any written correspondence and we don't have anybody joining us.
Okay,
Think we are
Good.
good.
so we're good to adjourn? Okay,
That's the rumor.
call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
6:05. Thank you. Bye, Diane. Hope you feel better.
Me too.
Here.